Welcome back. Last week, we talked to my really good friend Heather about what it was like growing up gay in the 90s in the South with parents who really didn't want to support her. I highly recommend you go back and listen to last week's episode if you haven't already, so you can hear Heather's story and where she's coming from. As always, we ask that you keep an open mind and willingness to learn throughout these episodes. And if you already listened to last week, here you go. Here's part 2.
Do you ever feel like you are the only one living a life that is too hard to handle? Welcome to the In Raw Life podcast, where we're going to talk about real life in its raw form.
Each week, we'll dive into the stuff that nobody really likes to talk about because it's uncomfortable, painful, a little awkward, or just weird. We want to normalize all of that and help you realize that you can live out your dream even in life's messiness.
I'm Sierra.
And I'm Jessica.
And we're living our dream lives in real life, in raw life.
So, I'm pretty unfortunate now. So I feel like, I've lived a very privileged life, even though I've had some hardship. But, here I am, and I'm loving life now. So this is great.
Okay, so I want to ask you a few questions for people listening. One being, let's start with if there are any parents out there who have gay children, what would be a way that they could love on their child in the time where their child is still figuring out who they themselves are?
So like the child hasn't come out to them yet, but they might suspect?
Or maybe they just did come out, but they are unsure. Like that initial, like either they haven't come out yet and they're afraid to, or they've just come out. Like I have a friend who is pretty certain her daughter is gay and has tried to like give her the freedoms for that, So like what's just but like her daughter hasn't come to the place of saying it yet. Or on the flip side, the daughter has and is still like working through it, and it like feels weird and like an outcast. Like what would be advice that you give to parents of kids, of young gay kids?
I think like first and foremost, like if they haven't come out and you just, maybe you have some suspicion or you might have an inkling or whatever, obviously don't like push them into coming out to you. That's their own process and they'll do it when they're ready. That's assuming if they are gay. Just create an environment where there's open-mindedness and they're aware of it. You have to vocalize that you love them unconditionally, no matter what. As long as that kind of language is there, then I feel like there would be the comfort of knowing that, like, if they were to come out, that there's not going to be a negative reaction to it. And maybe even kind of engage with them. Like, don't do like the thing where my mom was like, let's watch this movie. But if there happens to be a TV show that comes on or something and there's like a gay couple, you could just like make comments of like, oh, that's really sweet. Or just comments of like acceptance.
Normalizing
and
it.
love,
That's
and
just like, that's normal.
Treating them like, the thing that I love the most is like the neighborhood that I live in. Everybody treats us as if we're like a straight couple here. They don't really treat us any different. And I think that's kind of beautiful because that's ultimately what we all want, is just to kind of be a part of a community, not feel like we're different or we're outsiders or whatever. And so, just trying, just like you would, I don't know, if there's some cute, touching, romantical moment in a straight movie or something, and if your normal reaction would be like, to get all like, I don't know, gushy about that, like, do the same thing for gay couples, or just make comments that like, oh, they're really cute together, just kind of little hints that like you're accepting and that you're open-minded about it, essentially. And then if they've already come out, obviously tell them that you love them no matter what, and you want them to be happy, and you support them, and you're there for them. Ask them if there's anything that they need from you as a parent. You know, they might figure out something that would make them feel good, and kind of give them that opportunity to maybe offer up a suggestion or, you know, an idea for something. Maybe they just need a hug, or, you know, whatever it is. Like, just like say you're there for them, and then ask them what they need. And then just, I guess, kind of generally, like, you can spend some time looking at resources online of, you know, like PFLAG resource. I mean, there's all sorts of resources for
what is
parents. It's parents of lesbian and gay, something like that. I don't remember the actual acronym. It was like 15 years ago when I was like researching this stuff. But you know, you could pretty much just Google like I'm the parent of a gay kid, and tons of stuff will come up, and there's going to be more kind of official type stuff that you'll come across, and just try to just basically consume as much information about it as possible, and try to find the right language, try to find you know, just read about other people's stories, and just try to get a good sense of like you know, what scenarios or things that your kid might be going through that they may not necessarily feel comfortable talking to you about, but like you're at least aware of it, so that way you can kind of sense something, or like, or even, you know, slowly but surely bring up stuff to talk about if they're comfortable with it. Like, so yeah, I guess just trying to inform yourself as much as possible. And I mean, above all, just love your kid no matter what. Like, they're deserving of love unconditionally. I feel like that's your one job as a parent, is to literally love your child unconditionally. So yeah, if you do that, like, it's all gonna be great. You just have to, you know, be there and just love your kid. So that's pretty much, yeah, the only advice I can think of. Yeah.
Okay, I have kind of a raw question. I was debating whether or not to ask it, but I'm going to. I don't know if I'd ask it if it wasn't you. But to the people who feel like being gay is in your head, or something that you're doing for attention, or something that you're making up, or you just haven't realized the truth yet, like all those people who think that being gay isn't real, or I'm not even 100% sure what their thought process is, but I know you know where I'm going. What would you say to them?
Well, that's interesting, because that's one of the things my dad said to me, and that's how I knew that he wasn't actually like a neutral party in the whole thing. Like, most of the time he would, you know, he just like didn't get involved in the discussions. And I would say this was before I met Kate, so this was at least 10 years ago. So yeah, I guess it was about 5 years after coming out. You know, I don't remember what the context was or why the discussion about me being gay. I mean, it was always the elephant in the room. So the topic came up again, and he basically said something along the lines of like, he doesn't believe that you're born being gay. He thinks that it's a choice, and that, yeah, he thinks that I'm choosing to be gay, and that, you know, in some ways, I guess that's, you know, like, I think, I don't know, I can't speak for them, but maybe there was like some feeling on their side that I was like doing this out of rebellion or something. I don't know, like, which is weird, because I was not a rebellious kid growing up. Like, I was very goody two shoes, get all the good grades, like, don't get in trouble kind of thing. So maybe that's off base, but that was, you know, his thought on that, because, you know, in that moment I told him, like, yeah, for some people it may be a choice. There may be somebody out there that is straight and has been in straight relationships all the way up till whatever point in their life, and they are like, you know what, I'm gonna start dating women just because I want to see what it's like, or I want to try it, or whatever. Like, yes, in that case, it's a choice, but that's not everybody's situation. Like, for me, it was there before I even understood or had words for it. And like, whether I was born with it or not, who knows, right? Like, I don't, scientists don't even know this. So, like, all I know is that, like, I didn't have words for it. I didn't even know it was a thing that existed. So, like, how do you choose that? You know what I mean? For me, it feels like there was something there from the get-go that, like, I just really had no control over. So, yeah, theoretically, I could choose to be straight, or, like, well, I don't think you can choose. I don't feel like I could choose to be straight, but I could choose to maybe not date women and be in relationships with men and just kind of go through the motions with that, and just, like, ultimately know that that's not, like, I could basically live a lie, and do that and make that choice. So yeah, everything you do in life is a choice. But for people that say, I've been this way for as long as I can remember, or since I was very young, if they say that I was born this way or whatever, like, just believe them, right? This is not like it's not like it's something you can prove, right? So you just have to, like, take someone at their word. And if you're a straight person who has no experience with anybody that's gay, or you've never had any gay tendencies or whatever yourself, and you're literally just making an opinion about something that you know nothing about, like, okay, like, just take that with a grain of salt, I guess. You can't really get caught up in what other people think. And that's kind of just the approach I've taken. Like, I'm not gonna argue with somebody who hasn't walked in my shoes, basically. So, especially about, like, my life, right? So I would just say it's not worth having those fights. Now, if somebody's open to hearing somebody else's story, and, like, maybe they came from that place of, like, oh, I feel like it's a choice or whatever, and then they hear somebody's story and they're like, oh, well, actually, okay, I could see where maybe that's not the case, and they kind of accept that there could be varying, I think it's a spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. Every person's journey or, like, life is very different. And so for some people, that moment or whatever it is, that aha, like, for me, I guess the aha thing was the Tattoo song or the music video. That, everybody has that moment, or that, or maybe it's like, I definitely had a lot of moments of thinking about it and, like, wondering, but, like, finally having, like, oh, it's a word for it, like, because from that point I went and, like, searched tattoo and then looked, and it was, like, lesbian. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I literally didn't know the word. So yeah, it's just, I feel like it's just not worth the time and effort to, like, argue with people that just want to argue about that based on zero experience. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say to that.
Well,
no,
I think with all the conversations we've had in August, just about people who are different than Sierra and I, anybody that has, like, hate or aggression towards someone that's not exactly like them, and let's be honest, nobody's exactly like anybody, but that feels like there's, like, that much of a difference, it always comes from lack of understanding, because they just don't get it. So some people choose, oh, well, let me be open and try to understand this, and also there's no need to hate this person or be against this person as long as they're not literally, like, physically harming someone else. Yeah. But some people take that non-understanding and it just terrifies them, and they go, like, that opposite direction, which is really hard to understand when you are an understanding person and you're, like, an open person. But yeah, like, it always stems from, I don't think that these people really fully inside, like, if you could peel away all the layers, feel that way, but there's so many layers, and they're not willing, like, they're too terrified to get there. Yeah.
I mean, I used to think that it's just because, if a person feels that way, like, they just haven't been exposed to, mm-hmm. like, if you are homophobic, I just always assumed, oh, because you didn't know anybody that was gay, so, like, you didn't have any kind of, like, frame or, like, context, or, like, yeah, it's just something kind of different and unusual, and you're kind of like weary of it, and you're just like, it's, you know, maybe you have your own opinions about, like, maybe you think it's gross or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I often think, oh, well, if they just met somebody that was gay and became friends with them, they'd be like, oh, they're just like any other person. Like, they're not, or like my favorite is like the gay agenda. Like we have this grand scheme to like turn the world gay. I don't even know. When they say agenda, I'm not sure what that agenda is. Like,
I know.
I didn't get the memo, but
I don't know. I would be down with the agenda.
So, just the idea that like you haven't had an exposure to people that are different from you. But like in the case of my parents, they've had, at this point 15 years to kind of settle into it. They've had a lot of time to kind of deal with whatever feelings they have on it. And, they'll to this day, and I'll admit I was nervous to do this podcast because, my relationship with them is not great. We're just starting to kind of get back to the point where we're doing small talk, and my worry is that they would find out about this podcast, and then I know that they would be upset because I literally am like airing out all their dirty laundry over the last 15 years, or like somewhere between 15 and 20 years. So that there's part of me that's like, oh, this could backfire on me, but I was, I don't know, I guess I was hoping that like it would be kind of therapeutic for me, and then additionally, like, if it could help somebody else, like, kind of figure something out. I think that's more important at this point. And my parents, like I said, have had a lot of time to do the work, and they just haven't. So obviously they know somebody that's gay. So that theory of mine before, of like, oh, they just haven't had exposure, like, okay, maybe that's not necessarily right. Like, I think there are just some people that are so close-minded, and they're just not going to, they just can't get past whatever that mental block is. So, for my parents, like it was so many excuses. It was like, oh, we want to have grandkids. Oh, we don't want you to be treated differently. Like the goalpost was always changing. Oh, religion. That's what it was. I'm like, religion? Maybe
your
like,
parents?
Yeah. The last time I talked...
Sorry.
Yeah. The last time
it's not funny, but it's a little funny.
The last time I stayed at my parents' over the holidays, this was like many, many years ago. This was right around the time that DOMA was going through the Supreme Court. And so Fox News, they watch Fox News, so Fox News was on one morning, and they were interviewing this person about DOMA, and it was a person that was like pro-gay marriage. And they obviously brought on somebody who's like, it was obvious that English wasn't their first language. So they were trying to find somebody that their viewers would automatically dismiss anyways, because they had a very heavy like Hispanic accent, and like, we're talking about being pro-marriage or whatever. And then like as soon as they interviewed that person, they basically started like reaming into, why DOMA's bad and this and that, basically just like down, like talking down the lawsuit that went through Supreme Court that made gay marriage legal across the United States. And so when that was happening, I was like obviously frustrated, because at this point I was engaged to my wife. And so I just like, I don't know, I made some sort of comment to them about like, like essentially watching Fox News, like, they're not going to, it's a very like one-sided discussion on the conversation. And then from there it was like, oh, well, everything has two, like my dad's response was like, everything has two sides to the story. And I'm like, okay, well, but like my side of the story is that like, I'm gay, I'm getting married, like, and he just kept going on about that. He's like, oh, well, whatever, like Heather, I think he started getting more defensive about the, like, me kind of like shooting down Fox News. And then when he kept saying, yeah, there's two sides to every story, I'm like, okay, well, what side of the story are you on? Like, and he just kind of stopped and was like, Heather, I just don't support gay marriage because of the Bible. And I was just like, that like really caught me off guard, because we were not a religious family. Like, we did not go to church. We didn't have a Bible. in the house, as far as I know. Like, my parents were not religious. I mean, maybe my dad went to church when he was a little kid, like with his parents, but like my parents are not religious, and especially my mom. So I don't know. I just thought that was like a whole nother level of like denial, basically.
That's like what I was saying with like the layers. Is it's always some people. There's always going to be something. They're always going to find a new reason, and yeah.
So
And I feel like for your parents, it's not even like they probably aren't even voicing the real reason, which the real reason probably has more to do with they must feel
They're
like
terrified.
shame, like they raised you wrong or they failed somehow, you know, like they probably have this own stuff that they're working through, which isn't accurate, but they can't even voice it to figure out that it's not accurate, you know?
My mom actually said that too. I remember there was another discussion. She was like, well, what did we do wrong? And you're like, what? You know, just, I mean, oh man, I feel like I could write a whole novel of like all the just
You probably should.
like, no, I don't know about that.
Well, I didn't know where you were going with that. I thought you were going to say like a novel about the things that you overcame, but
yeah. I mean, just like all the,
not a novel about the terrible things your mom
all the like horrendous things that they've said to me over the years. And like, oof, there's, I mean,
You can just write them down and then burn them.
I worked through a lot of it in therapy. So,
there you go.
you know, I would say in some cases I've been able to find ways to like forgive. You know, I'm certain there's still a lot that I have to work through, but it's some aspects of it that I've made peace with, basically. So yeah, I mean, but it's still there. It's still very raw. It's like, you know, some nights I'll get to thinking about it a lot, and you know, I'm just like in my own head, and I'll get like, you know, I'll start getting teary-eyed, and you know, because it is one of these things where I would love, because you know, Kate's parents are awesome. I have this great relationship with them. They're very active in James's life. And I like see that. And then every once in a while there'll be like these moments where I get just like kind of sad because I don't really get to experience that on my side with my parents. So yeah, I mean, there's, you know, they feel like they probably had a big loss, you know, whatever idea they had of my life in their head. But like, I also have had loss in this way. Like, yeah, I can't get that time back with James, and you know, that kind of hypothetical relationship and like those moments that they could have been there for, and they certainly, you know, can't get them back. So it kind of breaks my heart, because I always thought like, okay, my mom did say that really crappy thing about not accepting children, but like once the kid's there, like I feel like I was just kind of hoping that would change and that she'd reach out and want to like, you know, would want to meet him. I mean, she did reach out about like my dad having COVID and stuff, and James obviously came up, and I like sent her a couple photos just to kind of like see what her reaction would be, and she was very nice about it, like, oh, he's cute, you know, but it never really went beyond that. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, he's cute, he looks happy, or you know, something like that. So but there's part of me that's like, man, why aren't like, I mean, I guess COVID is a big part of that. Maybe they don't, but they travel, they go to Montana and they go to Tennessee, and they, you know, so they're not worried about COVID. They, you know, I don't know, part of me just thinks like, guys, reach out and just like try to start a relationship. I'm there and open to it, but like we should probably work through, I just wish we could basically like forgive and forget everything and move forward. Because that's ultimately what I would love. Like I can put aside all the crappy things. And I know, you know, I've also have said hurtful things at the time, because, you know, it was a very like vulnerable time for me, and I felt like I had to like kind of like shield myself, and, you know, so there were definitely moments that got really sticky there. And, yeah, I mean, I would love to move past it, but again, I feel like they have to be the ones to kind of like reach out for that. So maybe, not that I want them to hear this podcast, but like maybe some word will get to them that like, you know, yes, reach out to your daughter. So.
Okay, so I have one other question. This would be for anyone out there who knows they're gay but is terrified to say anything, what's the encouragement that you would give to them?
That's a hard one. You just have to kind of slowly but surely find like-minded people. I think that's really what helped me. Like when I went off to college, there was this other woman in one of the classes with me, and she was very butch looking. So it was like kind of without a doubt, like I was like, she has to be gay. So like I started just talking to her, and then we kind of developed a friendship, and yeah, turns out she's gay. And then from there, she kind of like introduced me to a lot of her other lesbian friends. And then before I knew it, I was kind of involved in this like larger lesbian community within Orlando. So, and that really kind of helped me kind of feel comfortable and helped to kind of like figure out more about myself. And just being around people that are like you just kind of feels like a little bit like a safe space. So, maybe you don't want to tell people that you're really close to, your friends and family, but perhaps, find groups either like online or, if there's, like meetups or even bars. If that's your kind of thing, you can go to a bar and try to meet people that, like a gay bar or a lesbian bar. And just try to seek out the community, and find friendships and allyships there. And that'll kind of help build that confidence, over time. And then, you just have to do it on your own time frame. Like there's no rush. You just have to make sure that you, first and foremost, like make sure you're in a good, like if you're young and you depend on your parents and your family, make sure you're and if you think that there could be any chance that it could go south, if you were to tell them, and like if they had a negative reaction, just make sure you're financially independent. That way, like if worst case scenario, they kick you out, you would have the means to support yourself, or like, or have some other kind of support network. Basically, don't be reckless about it. Like if you're young and there's no way that you can afford to like basically be on your own, then you should probably kind of wait to have that discussion. Like you can kind of go and still figure things out on your own and, still develop that community. But like, yeah, I wouldn't want to push anybody into like outing themselves before they're ready, and before like, if there's any risk that they would get kicked out of their house, like they need to be in a good place to like support themselves if that is the case. So that's just kind of like, because that was like a terrifying thing for me at that time. Like I was right out of high school, like I was planning to go off to college, like how the heck was I going to support myself? So yeah, I just say like find your people, and just do it when you're ready. And there's no rush. Like, there's never, like, it's never too late to come out. You know what I mean? Like, you can wait however long, take your time. That's perfectly fine.
Well, thank you for being so vulnerable. I really appreciate how much you were willing to share,
No problem.
even with the risk of your parents hearing it.
Yeah.
I have this idea that your mom would never listen to a podcast. She'd be like, what is this? Hopefully, we'll hope for that.
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest. But, it's the idea that, like, I don't think my brother would share this, but, like, who knows? It's one of those things that like, somehow certain information gets back to her.
Someone
and I'm
could
just
find
like,
out.
who the heck told her?
Yeah. How does she know?
Yeah. But, I hope that if she does hear this, I don't hope that she hears this, but if she does end up hearing this, I would hope that she knows that I love her, and I do, like, I would love to have a relationship with her if we could get it to a point where it's civil and there's mutual respect. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I stand, especially, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that, like, life is too short. So, yeah, I I would welcome a cordial relationship with my parents at this point in life. So I can hope that happens kind of organically on its own, and hopefully not through this podcast, but you know, kind of taking it slowly.
Amanda had said seen, heard, and respected, right? I think that's what they said.
I think so.
Was like like seen, that's all humans want, no matter who, what they are.
Yeah.
And we deserve it.
Yeah, for sure.
And if I have just a tiny soapbox this podcast episode, I would say to anyone who could possibly still be listening that thinks it's a choice, why would someone ever choose this heartache that you have experienced? Why would anybody choose that? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form. So
yeah, definitely would have been easier to be straight, for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But you have a beautiful story.
I was gonna say something that comes up is something that we've said a lot just in general is like, and bear with me because it might sound weird at first, but like, you're not special in the sense that like we all go through struggles. Like that's the beauty. That's what we talk about on this podcast all the time is like, we all have these things. You have this huge thing that happens to be very different. And so many people, unfortunately, don't even want to try to understand it. But like, just like you said, you've been through it and it's made you who you are. And you are such an amazing human being. And you, I'm guessing and hoping, love who you are and like your life that you have. So not that you had to go through that to be this and get it, but like it's like, you know, all of our struggles make us who we are.
Just
totally lost you.
Oh, bummer.
Dang it.
We're like so close here.
You know?
Yeah, your audio's there now.
You can hear me?
Yep.
But I didn't do anything different. That's so weird.
I don't know. Like these
technology.
I don't know. They're so weird. Tech's weird.
Well, anyway, while I have you, I was talking about, just so you know what I was saying, was like, you know, everything that we all go through, just like you said, is it's made you who you are. And like, just like me going through a divorce made me who I am and didn't want to go through that. And it's not anywhere close to the same thing. But like all of our human experiences make us who we are. I could have said you both look like stinky bananas. And you would have said,
Stinky
I don't know. I was trying to think of anything. It is past my bedtime.
Since I think this whole episode was a very raw moment, so we won't have to do that specifically. So Jess, can you lighten the mood with your lightning round? You like what I did there?
Oh, okay. First lightning round question. Favorite food that uses a banana?
Favorite food that uses a banana? Ooh. I really like Bananas Foster's, like the dessert.
Oh,
yeah.
See, it's a great question.
Huh?
That is a great question.
I was laughing at my question. I was like, see, it was a great question. Okay.
It's a hilarious question.
Who was your favorite band in the 90s when we grew up?
Easy. Hanson.
Yeah. Hands down. I can answer these questions for her.
Okay, wait. Okay, my third one then is, what's your favorite concert you've ever been to?
Ooh.
Oh, I bet I can. No. Oh my God.
That's interesting. Wow.
It's a lightning round, Heather.
Probably, yeah, sorry. I guess
okay.
I need to get that. Actually, it was a 311 concert that I went to with Kate. It was like the first,
nice.
I think it was the first concert we went to. And she taught me, you guys aren't going to believe this, she taught me how to crowd surf.
I love that. That's the cutest thing.
Amazing.
She was like, apparently, I mean, she was like obsessed with 311 all through high school. And
That's
so
funny.
she would go to 311 concerts and then like have, I don't know, some people around her pick her up, and then like she would just like coast across the crowd. And so she's like, oh my gosh, I kind of want to do it again. And I was like,
that's funny.
Okay. And so she talked about how it works and whatever. And so she got up and did it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had to like do it as well so that I could meet up with her. Because they kind of like move you to the front of the crowd and then you get out, around the front and then come back along the side. But yeah,
I love
it was
it.
a very interesting experience. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like everybody touching your butt and everything as you go along, but like I did it. I can say I did it.
But you've done it. That's cool. I think I did it one time. That's funny. Okay. The last two questions. Sierra.
It's so good.
You can't start laughing because then I won't stop. Okay. These last two questions are two that we ask everybody because they're really important questions. The first one is, we're huge supporters of small businesses. So what is your favorite small business?
Ooh. Well, okay, so there's this place in Rockville called, it's Pike and Roses, the shopping complex, but there's this little, it's almost like a food court, but it's like, it's like hip and cool.
Yeah.
Not like a mall food court. And they have these little, little restaurants in there that you can kind of go to. And there's a lot of these, so the food court is called The Block. And there's a bunch of little like Korean restaurants, and you can get bubble tea. And then there's this like really good dessert place where they sell like, I don't know, these like crazy desserts that are like little thin crepes like rolled in the like the like most delicious fluffy cream. I like it. Right now I'm trying to remember the name of it, which sucks because it's like you're just like inundated with all the signs. But basically it's The Block.
The Block?
Like the business. I think the business owns
Rockfield, Maryland?
Yeah. The Block.
Cool.
It's in
So if you're in Rockfield, Maryland, go to The Block.
Yeah. For sure.
I will when I come up.
Yeah, you gotta try.
I love those kind of places.
They got like little matcha towel roll cakes. I think they're called towel roll cakes. So good. Yeah. If you come out to visit, I'm taking you guys there.
I will come up. Okay, Heather, what does strength mean to you?
For me, it's a couple things. I would say, like, first and foremost, it's resiliency. Just like, like you said, everybody goes through really difficult periods in life. It's how you kind of come out of that and how you kind of bounce back from those challenges in life. And just like, and particularly if you can do it while maintaining a positive outlook and just, not trying, like, basically don't be angry with the world and feel like, maybe the world owes you something because of the like hardship or whatever. So yeah, just being resilient and kind of learning from that process and that like, not only the difficult time, but the healing from it as well. So I would say that's like the biggest thing that strength means for me. Also loving and like accepting yourself. And then I would add just like having healthy boundaries, whether it be a toxic parent or a toxic relationship or, maybe a coworker that's, kind of constantly pushing boundaries or like making you uncomfortable, like whatever it is, just having the courage to kind of set the boundaries and stick to them. It's hard. All those things I named are difficult. Like it's really hard to like bounce back from something and have a positive outlook. It's hard to love yourself and accept yourself when like sometimes, we all go through moments of like, I don't know, feeling really crappy about ourselves. And then, the boundary thing is really difficult. Like you can sit there and think in your head all day like, oh, okay, well, the next time this happens, I'm going to do this. But like actually doing it and sticking to it, that's the really hard part. So yeah, that's what I would define strength by, kind of those three characteristics.
Agreed. And then the real last question, which is perfect, is what is your favorite thing about you?
Probably just the fact that I'm like spontaneous. I feel like that's I don't know, that just ends up bringing some of the most enjoyable moments in my life when I'm willing to just like on a whim decide to do something crazy, like crowd surfing or whatever it is. Just kind of being open-minded and just willing to like, yeah, give it a go right there in that moment and not like think too much about it.
I love that about you too, because that brings up memories of Sierra's bachelorette party. And it was a very fun night. And we had a very spontaneous Heather that night. It was great.
Yeah, that's a good word to put. Yep.
A very spontaneous Heather. That's what we'll call her.
I still remember Heather grabbing up a plant out of its planter at some point in the night.
And bringing it back to the hotel room and then putting it in the sink and giving it water. And then Sierra later goes and plants that plant in her apartment complex garden.
You did?
Yeah, and they ripped it out.
Oh.
Apparently they didn't want a succulent in their garden.
Well, they're
succulent-free zone.
Yeah, that was a fun night.
And
it had to be spontaneous, right? Based on the the activities that were there. It was just kind of like the whole point of that evening was just like these spontaneous moments. So I don't know how much of the other, like the ripping the plant out of the ground was more just like being
I think that was just late night, a few drinks. Yeah.
But we'll go with spontaneous. Yeah. That was spontaneous.
Good time.
Not drunk Heather.
Well, that is all we've got for you, Heather. Thank you for spending so much of your time with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. This was fun. I mean, obviously, talking about the hard stuff was, it was raw, right? That's like the perfect word for it. But at the end of this, the kind of like being able to catch up with both of you and see your smiling faces and giggle and laugh, it's like, good for my soul. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, us too.
Ours too.
Yeah.
It was so good to get to talk with you.
Can't wait to see you both in person sometime.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
Well, thank you, Heather, and thank you to everyone who is listening. We invite you to rate, review, subscribe to our show. It's super easy. If you're on Apple, just scroll all the way to the bottom and hit that 5 stars. If you're on Spotify, I'll tell you next week because I don't know. But give us a rating because that tells the podcast platforms that we're doing something good and they will continue to share our podcast and help it grow. And you can also follow along with our fun, crazy antics on Instagram at inrawlife.co.
And if you would like to be a part of one of our episodes, not quite like Heather was, but you can tell us what strength means to you, and you just might be featured at the beginning of one of our episodes. Until next week, again, I just hope that you are listening to these conversations with compassion and an open heart and an open mind, open eyes. And remember that we're all human beings and we all have these beautiful stories that deserve to be heard and deserve to be respected. And if we show up with love, then that's all we need. Bye.